Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats weekly podcast episode number 146. I'm your host today, Dan Matson, aka Wooden Boat Dan. You know the rest of the story there. And this is the world's first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels all over the world. Great to have you on board today, folks. Welcome to the podcast if this is your first time. We like to have fun here and talk about wooden boats. We usually do that pretty successfully. Today's featured segment is an interview I did in September with John Harris. John's the owner of CLC Boats in Annapolis, Maryland. I think CLC stands for Chesapeake Light Craft. John is, his company is the biggest, or if he's not the biggest, he's in the top 2 or 3 wooden boat kit company in the world, I believe. He's sold a lot of kits, does a great job. Anyway, I hooked up with John at the festival to talk to him about what's happening at his company in the last year. This was actually the third time I got to interview John. Third time at the festival, which is kind of fun. It's a tradition now to meet him there and hook up. And he talks about some really cool stuff that's happening at their company and what he's up to personally. And he talks about some trends in the industry and how things have evolved and how the kits have changed over time. It's really a fascinating interview. And John's obviously a very knowledgeable guy and very articulate. So stick around. I think you're going to enjoy that interview. I'd like to give a shout out to the new subscribers to the Hooked on Wooden Boats newsletter. We've got 5 people this week: William Sikich, Devon Lyles, Lucida Bach-Ali, Jack Frake, and Jeff West. Welcome to the newsletter, folks. Great to have you on board. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so by going to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. It's an almost monthly newsletter, and I've got one due now that I'm going to be working on here soon. So it's all free. It's all fun. You just give me your name and email address, and you're in. And so check it out when you get a chance. Well, there's not much new to report in the wooden boat world here in Stanwood, Washington. Yeah, this time of year, it's there's not a whole lot of boating going on. I mean, there's some boating going on, but I'm not doing any to speak of. And I've been focused on my work, so I haven't been able to work on my boat, my Scamp, although I've got my garage pretty much cleaned out to put the boat in and start working on her. But I'll probably do that after my son's wedding. One of my 5 boys is getting married, which is pretty cool. The first one to get married here in 3 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks, and so we're getting ready for that. And I'm actually building some panels. I took made some panels out of plywood, 4x8 sheets, made 2 panels that stand up, and I'm going to panel them with, well, they've got plywood on them, but over the plywood I'm going to put some siding. It's house siding. It was under the siding on a house that was built about 100 years ago. It's rough sawn cedar that's about 1 inch or 3/4, maybe it's 7/8 by 12 inches wide, that has some water stains and knots. It's really cool looking vintage stuff. And I got that from a local guy here in Stanwood, so I'm going to be cutting that into lengths of, 3 or 4 or 5 feet, and paneling this. See, it would be 8x8 panel. I'm saying panel a lot, but anyway, you get my drift. It'll look like a barn or something, and that'll be the backdrop for the wedding. So that's my woodworking project. I'm actually going to start that today. because I don't have a whole lot of time to finish it. So I'm working on that, and like I say, after the wedding, the Scamp will go in the garage, and I'll start working on her. Also, I did want to mention here at the front that if you buy stuff on Amazon and you use the link that I'll provide you here in a moment, you don't pay any more for the items, and I get paid a small commission, which I really appreciate that. It helps pay for the podcast. And that link is hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. Again, hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. And also, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes in the store. Under the podcast section, you can subscribe. I'd appreciate if you leave me a review there, especially if you enjoy the program. Give me a 5-star review. That would be pretty cool. Okay, we're going to move on to the interview with John Harris of CLC Boats. Let's roll the tape. Okay, it's September 5th, 2014. I am with John Harris of CLC Boats. John, welcome back to the podcast today.
Great to be here, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah, we're sitting, it's an absolutely gorgeous day here in Port Townsend at the Boat Festival. We're sitting right next to the beach, listening to bagpipes on passing boats and seagulls and all kinds of good stuff. So, how have you been, John?
It's been very, very busy, and it's great to be here breathing the fresh air in Port Townsend because Maryland about this time is like the inside of a dog's mouth. It's hot and humid.
Yeah.
So it's great to be out here in the fresh air and in the clean water and the clear water. And have you ever seen so many wooden boats in one place before?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just everything from a canal boat to 8-foot rowboats.
Yeah, it really is terrific to see all the boats, but even more the level of enthusiasm of the participants here is astonishing. It's like breathing pure oxygen. I mean, you are among friends in a place like this. And
right.
It's really neat.
I'm just curious, John, what was the first year that CLC Boats came out to the festival here?
2000.
Oh, it was?
2000.
Wow.
So I guess if my arithmetic is correct, that makes us our 15th year at the Wooden Boat Festival.
Wow, congratulations. So, That's awesome. Yeah. I'm thinking that was the year I bought my Mill Creek kit from you guys over on the beach at the symposium, I think the weekend after the festival.
There was a sea kayak symposium that was usually the weekend after. So we would stay here the week, and sometimes we would recreate on these beautiful waters of Puget Sound, and sometimes we would go and do a quick demo in between down the coast a ways, but that symposium sadly went away.
Yeah, I know it.
I remember that being a very big show. Yeah,
there was a ton of boats you could try out down on the beach and stuff.
Yeah,
and my wife and I went out in your. Do you guys have a double?
Yeah, there's a double Mill Creek and a single Mill Creek.
Okay, so that's what we did.
They're still very much in production.
Yeah, very cool. So what's happening at CLC Boats these days, John?
Well, it seems busier than ever, and we're hiring again. I had a startling moment a few weeks ago when somebody asked me how many people worked at Chesapeake Lightcraft, and I started counting on my fingers. And I counted and counted. We had 20 people there, which seems startling to me. I mean, I was the first employee there, so I kind of remember it being a two-man operation, way back when, and so how times change, and so it's been very busy, and we're hiring at the moment, and.
You need any podcasters?
Yeah.
You were looking for that position, right?
That's right. Well, if you happen to be a web developer, I mean, yes, that's right. It's like if you happen to be a web developer who knows something about wooden boats, I'm sure there's at least 3 people in the world who fit that description.
Have that combination.
And we're looking for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm half there. I'm not quite there.
It's amazing, again, how times change. I mean, I can remember sitting around the office at Chesapeake Lightcraft in the 1990s, talking about this new thing, the World Wide Web, and should we have a web page? Well, that sounds interesting. Let's try it.
Yeah.
And now we're a
optional.
web-driven business, entirely, and In fact, our internal business is run on web-based software. So,
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a huge change, but really, flying back up and looking at the big picture, look at what's happened to our tiny niche in our little world of amateur boat building, thanks to the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
There has never been a time in all of history when there has been more choice for the amateur boat builder, more weird and wonderful choices, and interesting designs, and people who may never have gotten their design or their message or their boat adventure known to the public are now out there with these fun little wooden boats, and you can order plans from all over the world for. It's just, there are thousands of cool designs. There's never been a better time to be an amateur boat builder, to build a boat in your garage.
Plus the resources online, what you can learn just by reading and watching videos that are
videos.
free.
I mean, I think that that you could sit down and do a 40-hour marathon just watching YouTube videos on boat building. And it's great. And I'm always seeing stuff where I just, I smack my forehead and say, man, I wish I'd thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's what's so great about this information economy and the stuff that's available. And now we at Chesapeake Lightcraft feel like we can get our message out in ways that we couldn't have dreamed of, back when we were sitting around that tiny little original office talking about the newfangled World Wide Web. And so we're having a lot of fun with videos ourselves. And
you guys have a lot of stuff.
Stuff
on your website.
Yeah, a lot of videos that everything from stuff about boat building. We've got Nick Shada's 30 or 40 videos on strip planking, and we've got our own videos on stitching glue boat building. We've got videos that are about our design process, and some videos that are just for fun, that aren't just us having fun with boats.
Very cool. So what's your newest design at CLC, John?
Well, we've got a couple of new things this year. I guess here at the boat show, we're showing off our new Outrigger Junior sailboat. The Outrigger Junior is a relic of the origins of this design. It was originally designed for the big outfit, Big Brother, Big Sister, which was looking for an adult child boat building program, and I was on the committee that was discussing what they should build, and I was thinking it was going to be an Optimus Pram or something like that. I don't know, So, but somebody said, everybody's got an Optimus Pram. We should do something fun and unique. And somebody said, well, you ought to look at the old Malibu Outrigger. Remember that from the 1950s, right? And I was thinking, you could paint shark teeth on that. I mean, that would be the great kind, just the thing that to get kids engaged in sailing. So it was named the Outrigger Junior, and then, it as these things do, it didn't come together, and so the design sat around for 10 years. And
seriously?
And so I thought, this is really interesting, though, and I think we have something here, and we ought to pursue it. So about a year ago, we built a couple of prototypes, and we spent the last year just refining and. Of course, writing the instruction manual, and writing the instruction manual, and writing the instruction manual, and we're still writing the instruction manual, and we'll get that done one of these years. And so it's a really interesting little boat. What it is, it's an outrigger, which means one big hull, one little hull. But it's not a proa. It tacks conventionally.
It does. Okay.
So you operate the vessel in a conventional manner, tack upwind normally. But the advantages are over a catamaran, it's lighter and easier to build. Lighter weight structure. It allows a unstayed mast. Which,
really?
That's this positive spiral of rig simplification, allowing simpler spars and a simpler setup all around. So
a little bit safer too, without your boom banging into.
Yeah, right. So I mean,
shrouds.
you can let the rig pivot forward if you need to blow off steam, and it's a barrel of monkeys to sail. It's 15 feet long. It weighs all up about 250 pounds, and it's got 165 square feet of sail area.
Oh my goodness!
In a lateen rig, so lots and lots of horsepower, but set with a nice low center of effort. So it's really a fairly docile boat to operate.
Yeah.
And it's big enough for 2 adults, which is great.
Is it a canopy? You sit on a canopy with that boat?
Well, no, you've actually got bench seating, so
really?
you've got good ergonomics too. So it's it's a bit more boat building than a kayak or something like that. It's like building 3 kayaks probably, but but it's something that's surmountable for an amateur.
It's a stitch and glue boat.
Yeah, stitch and glue, and it's got some cross beams to build, and and it comes with a bagpipe. Every kit comes packaged with a bagpiper. Hopefully you can hear the bagpiper there
sailing by right now.
Yeah. So
wow,
so
that's cool.
Yeah, so that's fun and interesting, and I've had a parade of people through the booth who seem really interested, and we'll see. You throw these things out there. I gave up on the focus group approach to new boat kits years and years ago, and now I just do what I find interesting and fun, and sometimes it sticks, and sometimes it doesn't, and I have fun either way. So
so is that a pretty fast boat, John?
Yeah. I mean, this is good for 12, 13, 14 knots. That kind of speed.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like a NACRA 5.2 that can do 22 knots. Nor is it something that you might as well be in a monohull. It's better than that. So it's good fun. It's pretty, in smooth water it's very dry, which you can't say for something like a HOWB. And you can launch it through the surf. We've done that. We've done those tests, and it does very well. So
is it common to have the outrigger out of the water when you're sailing?
Yeah, it does lift out, but you can tune that with the main sheet.
Okay.
If you want to fly the hull, then you pull in another inch, and up comes the hull. If you want to let it go back down, but it won't go too much further because it's got bench seating port and starboard of the main hull, and the benches have a lot of flotation, so the leeward bench will stop you if you get going too far over. So it will not only float, but it will literally stop you because it's kind of draggy. So
in theory, it would be faster with the outrigger in the water?
Yeah, we've done all kinds of GPS testing, upwind and down, and all kinds of conditions. And the boats, you look at an outrigger, one big hole, one little hole, you think, it's going to be faster on the tack where the little hole's out of the water, right?
Yeah.
No, it's faster with that hole in the water. So it could be because of the way I've proportioned it. Both hulls are the same length, like as in a catamaran.
Okay.
But the small hull, the outrigger, is very narrow, so very low resistance.
So mathematically, those hulls being side by side, would that give you the same hull speed as if they were end to end? It's not the same, is it?
No, it wouldn't be like that. But I mean, it does enjoy a multi-hull's hydrodynamics, which is to say very little wave-making drag. So it seems capable of just kind of accelerating indefinitely until something breaks.
I see. Yeah.
Which is common to all really narrow multi-hulls. But I did, unlike the original Outrigger Junior, which was supposed to be for one parent, one adult and one child, big brother, big sister, right? This one I ended up making a bit more high volume so that 2 average adults can go sailing. It has a payload of about 450 pounds, which is enough to be fun. You could take, I've taken myself and a couple of kids out. I've taken, 2 big adults in it. I've got some video of a payload well north of 500 pounds, and it does fine. It starts to be a little bit draggy that way. But,
yeah, cool. Cool.
So that's new. We got some other boats coming along, new prototypes. We're spending more time than we used to on documentation. Now it's just not a boat if it doesn't have YouTube video. So, that takes a while, especially if you want to do a really nice job of video editing. We figure about an hour per minute of editing, so that takes a long time. And,
really?
And of course, there's the instruction manual, and what seems to happen. 20 years ago when I started at Chesapeake Lightcraft, the instruction manuals were a parsimonious little pamphlet of maybe 18 pages, which was nevertheless more than you'd get with almost anything you bought. I mean, usually you would just get a set of blueprints and off you go, right? And if you needed instruction, then you would go to the library and you would get a book on boat building. And now people look for the instruction manual to be hyper specific, and so it's not uncommon for a manual for one of our boats to now push past the 200-page mark. And
wow,
I just finished a manual that had over 1,000 illustrations in it. And,
oh my goodness!
And people don't send you letters of congratulation; they just expect this now. So, furthermore, I mean, more likely than not, you're going to get nearly homicidal criticism. If you leave out, one. If there's any oversight at all. So it's a huge challenge, and I think a lot of my colleagues in this little niche of amateur boat building have kind of sailed right up to this zone of accessibility to the rank beginner and said, this and no further. The amount of technical support and the amount of effort that I'm going to have to put into the documentation, I'm not going to get paid back for. I'm not going to amortize that amount of development over enough sales to get it back for it. And at Chesapeake Lightcraft, we sort of sat around and had some fairly solemn meetings about this and decided, no, that is exactly what we're all about. This is exactly what our mission is to make boat building accessible to the absolute rank beginner. And so we take these. We take this as a challenge and as something that that's our mission. That's what we were intended to do, and that's what I kind of feel like I was put here to do was to try to make boat building accessible. So
cool.
We're just the manuals get better every year.
Wow, very good. So was it last year you completed the design of the fairing? Or was it this year?
we did an interesting boat, and this was a custom one-off project for we were commissioned to do this design. It was a 23-foot double-ended rowing sailing camp cruiser, right? It was a design that kind of got knocked back and forth a couple of times, and I had a strong suspicion that I was not going to be able to put together a design that this particularly demanding client was going to be happy with. But in the end, I looked up, went to my library and got thinking about the Norwegian fairings, which are the kind of traditional small boats of Scandinavia, and this guy wanted a very small cabin, just basically sleeping accommodations and nothing else, and there's a Scandinavian fairing derivative called a fimbering, which has a small aft cabin. So the aft section of the boat is put over to sleeping accommodations, and this turned out to kind of fit this guy's design brief. So we built it for him, and we held a finger to the wind, and people said, "This is really cool. Can we get plans and kits?" Oh, great. Another instruction manual for a really odd boat, So you can get a kit and you can get a set of plans. We're leaving this one for the intermediate and above builders. It just comes with an enormous roll of plans. I mean, I think it's 20 odd pages of plans or something like that. So if you can read plans, then you can definitely get through one of those. And, it's a very interesting boat, and it's very photogenic, and has gotten a flattering amount of press, which I'm proud of. Whether many of them will get built, I couldn't tell you. I mean, that was certainly one that didn't start out being a a boat for the mass market. It was intended for just this one guy,
Yeah, right.
And so
you were just on the cover of Small Craft Advisory.
as a matter of fact, it wasn't that neat. And how nice of Josh and friends, and I was enormously flattered for it to land there. But it's a very interesting boat. It's not like any other, and there's probably a few people out there who that's the perfect boat for them.
So I'm just curious, technologically, are there changes that are happening with boat building, John, as far as materials or how you do things? Any changes there?
Well, 20 years ago, computer-aided design was everywhere, but it was only slowly making inroads on our little worlds. The build-it-yourself boat. There were many very, very talented designers working in computers with small boats 20 years ago in 1994, say, but it had not made a lot of inroads. But here in 2014, now that is the common currency, that nearly everybody is working in computers. And as you know, you can do astonishing things with computers. As I've always been quick to point out, it doesn't make boat designs any better. It just allows you to design terrible boats more quickly. But in practiced hands, you were able to perform rhapsodic feats of plywood construction. I mean, just really exotic shapes. I mean, just amazing origami type designs that wrap together in ways that you just can't imagine plywood capable of doing. But so in 2014, though, that's becoming increasingly common, and that's why I say if you go out there on the internet and just look at the boats that are available, and how some of these talented designers are putting boats together in computers, it's quite amazing. And we certainly, I would never claim that Chesapeake Lightcraft was on the forefront of that. I mean, we were probably right about in the middle of the pack in terms of adopting that technology, but we certainly have embraced it wholeheartedly. The big news for us this year was that we just upgraded our CNC machine, our computer numerical cutter. That we cut all of our kits with, and it's like it's like our printer, basically. Only instead of printing paper, it's basically we're printing plywood parts with this thing, and it's expensive and complex technology, and I have a staff literally of about 5 guys whose job it is to look after the care and feeding of this thing, especially feeding it parts, namely in the form of CAD drawings that can be cut on a CNC machine. So very complex. It's one of those things that salesmen make it sound easy, and then you get into it, and it's it's a nightmare. I mean, it really is. And so we've had a CNC machine since 1997, 17 years, and this is, depending on how you count, either our 4th, 5th, or 6th machine. 2 of our 6 machines we had to ship back, so because they didn't work. So,
oh my goodness,
just as an example of how complex these things are. So, and it is a nightmare. And so, our most recent machine was from 2009, and it was a pretty big, pretty advanced machine. And by last year, 2013, we had the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor on that machine. It was cutting parts as fast as it possibly could. And then we went to split shifts and second shifts, and lots and lots of overtime, and we were just running this machine. It was a great machine. I mean, it was doing great. It was doing the best it could.
Yeah.
But it was time to upgrade, and so That was about an $80,000 machine, which to me seems like an absurd amount of money. And the machine we just installed in July was $240,000. So,
oh my goodness!
So it was a huge escalation in the capability and the speed and reliability was the main thing we were looking at. I mean, it's a very, very rugged machine. I mean, I guess the easiest way to look at it was that our old machine weighed about 4,500 pounds, and this one weighs 16,000 pounds. So,
oh my goodness!
Much more robust, so that when we have these huge surges of orders, that we can really run it hard, and it's going to allow us to keep adding to the complexity of the kit. So, the first kits we were cutting in 1997, I mean, really, it was kind of side panels and bottom panels and decks, and put them in a box and off they go, right?
Yeah.
So, in 2014, we're drilling all of the stitching holes in a stitching glue kit.
Oh, seriously?
I mean, so that would be hundreds and hundreds of holes in a single kit, right?
Yeah.
And everything is puzzle jointed instead of scarf joints, which used to be cut on an analog machine off to one side, right?
Yeah.
So everything has got these puzzle joints that allow you to snap the parts together as soon as you get them out of the box, and you get perfect alignment, and there's really no interpretation involved on the part of the builder whatsoever. I mean, when you built your Mill Creek, you probably had to get the plans out, stretch a string line, compare the shape of the parts against, sight down the parts and make sure you had fair curves. And then you had to make sure that as it cured overnight that nobody knocked into the assembly. Right, yeah. So, I mean, and now you snap the parts together and they go together perfectly every time. So we've been doing that for years and years. I'm going back to into the early 2000s at least, but the difference is the machine has to slow down when it cuts those puzzle joints, because that 1/4-inch bit, carbide bit, actually bends a little as it's pushed through the wood. And if you try to do a bunch of tight curves at 600 inches per minute, then that tiny amount of flexing in that 2-inch, well, it's really about 1.5 inch long bit, is enough to make puzzle joints not fit. So you need to, that was sort of upgrading our technology to be able to do that quickly and accurately.
Yeah.
We could do it accurately before, but we just couldn't do it quickly. So
I see.
I mean, I think we sat down one day in 2013 and we had 240 kits on back order or something like that, and we said, well, we're going to have to make some changes because nobody was happy. We weren't happy, and certainly the customers weren't happy.
Wow.
So that, and we're doing lots of three-dimensional shaping of parts. They have rabbets cut in them. They have mortises. They have, we're doing
cutting bevels like on planks. Or?
Yeah, we can do bevels on the edges of planks now. Lots of our kits have that. We do a lot of subcontracting too. I mean, that's a huge part of our business.
Really?
And, I guess it's not something we talk about a lot, but we do. It's probably 10% of our business at least, and we're cutting
subcontractor kit stuff out.
Other people's kits, and other just CNC work for other maritime trades. We're cutting.
Oh, you're doing their. You're doing some of their work.
Right. So for one example, we're cutting center boards for large multi-hulls.
Really.
We're doing these 31-foot catamarans, so that's 2 center boards each. Are asymmetrical center boards that are something like 7 feet by 3.5 feet, and we're machining the airfoil into that.
The 3-dimensional.
Yeah,
shape.
right. Into those boards out of 2-inch thick plywood.
2-inch thick.
Yeah, it's real specialized stuff.
Yeah.
And
is it a kumi or?
No, we're actually using fur because of the strength. We're not trying to save weight because they need the boards to sink anyway. And fur is really very strong along the length of the grain. So this plywood has a lot of the grain is going lengthwise, instead of the usual crosshatch pattern. So.
Yeah.
So we're doing that kind of thing, a lot of shaping of stuff that way. So this investment in technology is allowing us to do a better job with all of that, and
Are all your kits cut on one machine, John?
Well, yeah, it's one machine.
One table?
We've got one machine, but it has two tables.
Oh, okay.
So the gantry, imagine, I guess the table's about 20 feet long, and it's got a table for a 4x8 sheet of plywood at either end. And so the gantry rolls down to one end, and it's cutting down there while the operator is loading or unloading the other end. And then the gantry trundles back down and cuts the other end, and the operator swaps in.
Loading, unloading all day.
Basically, the machine can run continuously without pause, in theory.
Yeah. Now,
in practice, it's so much more complex than that, and we've got to stop and make adjustments, and the programming is a sort of never-ending task to the extent that we have two guys who just program all the time. And and so why would they be doing that? Well, for example, if you want to reduce waste, or you have a big run of the same boat, we need to cut 20 northeaster dories right now. Well, we can create specialized files that create dories in quantity as opposed to cutting one at a time, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of optimization is going on hourly, on an hourly basis. And,
how many sheets of plywood? Do you just put one sheet on at a time, John?
Well, it depends. It depends. For cutting jobs where the accuracy is less important, then we can do a big stack of plywood. And cut a bunch of sheets at once.
Yeah. So it's a longer bit, huh?
Yeah, right. And you cut it a little bit slower, and you change the CNC's strategy or how it attacks the plywood slightly differently if you're doing it that way. Other things that have a lot of shaping, of course, it can only have one sheet of plywood at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Wow, interesting stuff. So I'm just curious, John, I thought of this question while I was sitting there last night. If there's any CLC boats that you're aware, I'm sure there are, that have done some kind of extreme adventures or some really cool things or some big trips or
lots and lots of them. I mean,
any come to mind?
Yeah,
that are cool?
we get emails every day, and it's one of the fun parts of having shipped 25,000 kits is hearing the stories. And you'll get an email one day from someone who just did a circumnavigation, not in one of our boats, but with one of our dinghies in Davits on their cruiser, right?
Okay.
So I can think of that twice in the last year. We heard from somebody who's done circumnavigation. So, but people in the small boats are doing amazing voyages. You're of course familiar with Water Tribes events. We have lots and lots of Chesapeake Lightcraft boats doing these 100, 200, 300 mile events sponsored by Water Tribe.
Is that all in the U.S., John? Or?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
We do have a lot of overseas activity too. We have a customer who built a little double ender of ours called the Scary. It's a little lap strake plywood double ender, very straightforward rowing sailing boat. Who has done the Great Loop in this boat? I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
The Great Loop is a circle described by the Mississippi River to the west. You go down the Mississippi, across the Gulf, up the coast of Florida.
Intercoastal? Or?
Through the Intercoastal, up the Chesapeake Bay, and then to New York City, and then up the Hudson, and through the canals to the Canadian Maritimes, and then along the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Great Lakes. And then through the Great Lakes, you can work your way back to the Mississippi.
Wow.
And so we have a guy who is now about 90% through the Great Loop in this 15-foot rowing sailing boat.
Wow.
And, he has
How long
had...
Has he been at it, John?
What he does is he does 2 or 3 months a year during the summer.
Okay.
So he's in his, I want to say his 5th or 6th year. I forget now. And it has been adventure piled upon adventure. I mean, he has had more near-death scrapes.
Seriously?
And he's certainly left me lying awake at night more than once, wondering about him. And he's had dismastings, and
oh my goodness!
He had a shark bite the end of his oar and nearly broke his arm. And
seriously.
And I've seen the bite marks to prove it. I believe him. And
oh my goodness,
he has had gales and calms and all kinds of scrapes and adventures. So you can check out his work. His name is John Geider, and his website is called The River Inside. TheRiverInside.com.
Wow.
Check it out.
Yeah.
And he's a professional photographer of impressive credentials, and he's writing a book about this.
Oh, cool.
And, so he
wow.
He did the Mississippi in a canoe and wrote a book about it, and so he's planning to document this adventure.
TheRiverInside.com.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I got to check that out.
So John Geider is his name, and so that's just one adventure. But I guess it's been a very busy bunch of years for me. I spend a lot of time in the office. I don't feel like I get to go out and just have a lot of unscheduled time on the water, but I get to live vicariously through these amazing adventures that people are doing in small boats that they built from my designs or their own designs, and they got materials from Chesapeake Light Crafts.
Yeah, very cool.
60% of our business continues to be just supplies and materials.
So when you do get out on the water, what boat are you typically on, John?
Whatever's floating.
Oh, okay.
I have a wondrous, strange fleet of boats at home, and that dare I say it includes a power boat among other things.
Okay.
But I've got a 2-year-old, so I get in my boating when I can. And
right. Get the pro out, Madness?
Yeah, Madness did a lot of sailing for a couple of years, and basically this is a 31-foot proa that I built and has been pretty well documented. So your listeners have probably heard of it. But it got sailed a lot and had some adventures, and kind of from my point of view, I proved what I set out to prove, and but along the way I got married and had kids, so it's like not the greatest young family boat. So it's currently sitting inside in the air conditioning back at the warehouse at Chesapeake Light Craft. So
let's dry it safe for a while till it.
But the cool thing is that 4 more of them have been built. So there are 5
seriously?
out there. Yeah. So 2 in California and 1 in North Carolina and 1 in well, I guess the owner lives in Florida, so it will be stationed in Florida eventually. So quite a few more have been built. And
you saw that as a kit, John?
Yeah, all 4 of those were built from kits that we cut. And no, there's not an instruction manual, but there is a huge roll of plans. This is not a boat for the first-time boat builder, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
The people building them have been people who've built a couple of boats or more before. So, it's sort of a project complete from my point of view. It sailed great. I could think of no improvements. And so moving on to the next project.
Yeah.
It's going to be. All the next projects are a lot smaller.
Oh,
I'm happy to say. That 31 feet of multi-hull is a lot of boat building. I'll tell you what, it's a very small boat in that it only weighs 1,400 pounds, so it's not a lot of volume, but boy, is there a lot of surface area.
Yeah.
A lot of surface area means a lot of sanding. And,
my goodness, Sean.
So we sanded and sanded and sanded. A lot of epoxy. I mean, I can remember individual steps in that boat, just one single step requiring a gallon of epoxy. You'd mix it with an electric mixer. And seeing that much epoxy go into a boat at once, I mean, you're just
my goodness.
You just feel your wallet getting lighter all the time. So anyway, I'm delighted. I'm working on a personal project, which is a cruising dinghy that's 10 feet 6 inches, and it nests into an even smaller package than that, and it's yawl rigged and water ballasted, and something that that you could build in your apartment and I don't know, go do the Great Loop in if you were crazy anyway. But at least for cruising in bays and estuaries and rivers, something like that. I had this sort of brainstorm about a boat that I could put put on a pallet and ship overseas, and go cruise neat places like
assembled.
Yeah, right. That was kind of ready to go,
Yeah.
and I would arrive there and assemble the boat, and then I could go cruise on, I don't know, the Thames in England, or the canals of France, or I don't know, Fiji, something interesting. So
wow, that's pretty cool. So how far along is that, John?
Well, it's built.
Oh, it is.
It's not a Chesapeake Lightcraft.
It's your personal
product.
brand.
It's just something I'm doing for fun. So maybe if people are into it, then it'll be available. And of course, then I'll have to write a manual. Did I mention that manuals are really, really hard?
Very cool. So how many designs do you guys have these days, approximately?
Close to 100.
Seriously? Wow. Your stand-up paddleboards are still real popular?
Very popular.
Yeah.
Making them as fast as as ever we can.
Yeah. Cool. Very good. So, John, what's your contact information for people listening if they want to find out more about CLC boats?
Well, clcboats.com or ChesapeakeLightcraft.com. And that's the place to start. And if you've got an evening to laze away, then there's lots of content there to just have some fun with. And like I said, there's never been a better time to go find a cool boat to build. There's so much neat stuff out there, and I hope you go build a boat.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for your time today, John. I appreciate it.
It's great to be on your program, Dan. Thanks.
We'll hook up again next year, hopefully. So
once a year. There we go.
Exactly. All right, thanks, John. Thanks, John, for hooking up. It was fun to chat and find out what you guys are up to. It's always it's just fun to have a conversation like that and sit on the beach in the sun at Port Townsend during the festival. It's like deja vu every year. We do it kind of in the same place, and it's really a blast. And you guys are doing some awesome stuff. So I wish you the best, your company and all the employees and all the people building the boats too. That's pretty awesome. Okay, you hook up with me or connect with me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Pinterest. If you look for Wooden Boat Dan there, or you can send me an email at woodenboatdan@gmail.com. And you can also leave comments on my blog site, hookedonwoodenboats.com. And if you want to leave a voice message with some feedback, I would really appreciate it. It's rare that anybody gets up enough courage to do that. I'm not really sure why, but if you're game for that, you can leave a message up to 90 seconds directly from your computer. Just go to my homepage of hookedonwoodenboats.com and click on the button on the right there that says leave a message. I'll get that, and I would appreciate that. It would be awesome. Also, I've got an ebook for sale on my website. It's called Get in the Wooden Boat Game, A Guide for Building Your First Boat. It's a book I wrote last year. It's a good book for somebody that's just learning about wooden boats and trying to figure out if they want to build a boat and how much it might cost and how long it would take and how you build it and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a primer. So check that out if you get a chance on my homepage. And there's also a book there by Russell Brown about using epoxy safely and efficiently, and that's an excellent book. And those books my book's $5, and I think Russell's is $6 or $7, something like that. So check it out when you get a chance. Okay, I hope you're getting out on the water or building a boat or doing something fun with wooden boats. And maybe you're living a part of the country or the world where it's sunny and warm right now, and it's great for boating, and I'm a little jealous if you do, but I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, we'll chat again next week. Wooden Boat Dan, over and out. God bless. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. Talk again next week. Bye-bye.